If you needed one clip to describe Warhammer 40K Boltgun, that would be it. Hey, Jarek here, and I've always been incredibly confused as to why 40K doesn't have more first-person shooters. This seems like the perfect universe for this exact genre. You have warring factions, you have interesting species, you have lots of military equipment, you have tons of guns, so where are the shooters? They have been kind of trying recently, making some Horde games and Necromunda and a few other action games, but none of these are the straightforward first-person shooter I'm thinking of in my head. Thankfully, we finally got one. It's way better than I thought it was going to be, and I already thought it looked good from the trailers alone. Turning this into a 90s retro boomer shooter was the perfect choice. Something about taking your 40K models and shoving them down into sprite form just works seamlessly. Now, I could have been fooled into thinking this game ran on the GZ Doom engine, but it doesn't. It runs on Unreal Engine 4. Once I got that information, everything made sense. I played this on PC using a Steam copy, and in my case, I didn't have a single issue. Frame rate stayed solid, there wasn't any stuttering, moving and aiming felt perfect, I never had a single crash, and every single option I wanted to have was there. If you feel like being weird and using a controller, there's full controller support. All the retro options you'd want are there, like say toggle sprint, there is an FOV slider. This is a very solid PC release, which is nice to see, given how PC ports have gone this year. As for the graphics, this game looks way better than I thought it was going to. For a retro game, this looks beautiful. There is so much attention to detail, both in all of these worlds, in all of the guns, in all of the enemies. If I was a 40K fan, which I never really got into 40K because it never really offered anything I was too interested in. Seemed like an interesting universe, but I'm not really into board games or D&D. I was the kid that would rather destroy Lego buildings rather than build them, or just go out and ride my bike. So I would love to get more experiences like Boltgun, but I do have a friend that is into 40K. So I dragged them into a Discord call, I streamed this game, and I asked for their opinion. Right away, they started nerding on everything. Any gun I picked up, they started nerding about all the little details, any enemy they saw, they tried to figure out why this faction was attacking here. If you are a 40K fan, this game will make you incredibly happy. And boy, when people get into 40K, they really get into 40K. I swear, from the outside looking in, it almost looks like a cult. I say that respectfully. Now, even though I don't know much about 40K, the one thing I do know is that it is very over the top, specifically with Space Marines. And let me tell you, they did the Space Marine proud in this game. General movement is perfect. When you are sprinting, there is loud stomping. When you jump, there is a ton of screen shake and an even louder noise when you land. All of this just looks, feels, and sounds right. It portrays weight and power better than any full 3D game I've played. You can even Goomba stomp enemies. And if you stick next to giblets long enough, you can see things like brains sticking to walls, eventually slopping to the ground. If you press the T button, you can taunt. You have different taunts for whether there are enemies around or not.
I will wade through the blood of our enemies. The might of the Imperium.
And there is a lot of voice lines here. I sat here for numerous minutes listening to all the different dialogue, waiting for a repeat. It took a while. Or if you sit there doing nothing, the idle animation is just reading a book. All of these little details are what makes this game. This game feels like a AAA game made on the GZ Doom engine, even though it's on Unreal Engine 4. From that description alone, you should know whether or not you will enjoy this game. So how about the story? What's going on? You are a Space Marine under the Order of the Ordu Malus. Graia, the Forge World, has pockets of Chaos enemies. It is assumed that a warp rift has opened using a surviving fragment of the Inquisitor Drogon's power source. Your mission is to secure that fragment and purge Graia. Now, if 90% of this went over your head, don't worry, that did for me too in the first opening cutscene. What I did understand is that I was a dude in power armor, I had some badass weapons, and there were enemies to kill. And to be frank, that's all you really need to know if this is the style of game you enjoy. With that said, these cutscenes have really good pixel art, and overall are just solidly well done.
Beware. We do not know how far the taint of the arch-enemy spreads.
Here's how I can describe the gameplay. In most games like this, the first weapon you get is a tiny pistol that you'll drop after the first level or so. In this game, the first gun you get is a bolt gun that jibs enemies in one shot. Space Marines are very overkill. This game lives up to that, and I'm all here for it. Warhammer 40K Boltgun is split into 3 chapters. Not 3 levels, 3 chapters. And it will take you roughly 10 hours to beat. Each chapter has a certain amount of levels, and it even has the Doom-esque end screen when you beat a level. Considering this is an Unreal Engine 4, that's kinda cute. Boltgun has your traditional boomer shooter progression. As you play throughout each chapter, you'll get bigger and better weapons and fight stronger enemies. However, in a universe like 40K, these enemies are incredibly varied. You may have your base enemies which just shoot at you with guns, or you may have demons that will split apart into more demons when you kill them. You may have weird, grotesque flying things. You will fight other Space Marines, and Space Marines within themselves have different enemy types. Watch out for this guy. If you don't jib him after you kill him, he will get back up and mess you up. Almost every single one of my deaths came from me not paying attention around one of these guys. There's even the occasional boss that will turn into a mini-boss after you defeat it. Difficulty, in my experience, was perfect. Anytime I died, it felt like it was my fault. Especially because you are incredibly strong as a Space Marine. You can have well over 100 health, you generally will have health in the 200s, and you won't take any damage at all as long as you have armor. Thank God, why doesn't every shooter do this? What's the point of armor if I still take damage? You have some other nifty abilities though. For example, a dash ability that's on a very fast recharge. It is impossible to explain how satisfying it is to dash through 10 different enemies, killing all of them. And your melee attack is a chainsaw with a lunge that will cause slow-mo. You may think this game would end up being too easy and rather boring because you are so strong, but keep in mind there are other Space Marines around and other enemies that are also strong. It is very easy to become complacent, not pay attention, and then realize you only have 20 health left. Pretty much every time I died was because of this. And later in the game obviously will challenge you more. Difficulty to me felt perfect. As for your weaponry, yeah, it's Warhammer weaponry. This stuff is awesome. I won't go over every single weapon because I still want you to experiment and find these on your own, but I'll talk about a few of them. We've already mentioned the first gun you get is a bolt gun, but I really need to stress how good it feels to shoot. Enemies jib in the most satisfying way. Reloading is quick and effortless. And despite this being the first gun you get in the game, you will use it till the very last level, especially because you can find secrets. Now, these secrets aren't as involved as some Doom secrets. They're mostly just hidden in a corner somewhere. These secrets could be damage boosts, or they could be an upgrade that gives you a single magazine of stronger bolt gun ammo. Shotgun. Well, this does what you would expect from a shotgun, but it looks really badass and is very satisfying. It wouldn't be a retro shooter without a good shotgun. Plasma gun. You may think, okay, well, it's a plasma gun, I've seen this a million times, but no, this one's different. This one is more akin to a fully automatic rocket launcher that can overheat. I really like this thing. It's unique and different, despite filling the same role as a rocket launcher. My only complaint I have about it is that you can't swap weapons while it's overheated, which is kind of lame. Let me swap weapons, please. And the late game weapon I'll talk about is the Melt-A-Gun. This is effectively a railgun with a wide spread, for when you need to overkill whatever is in front of you. This isn't even the strongest weapon you get. The weaponry in this game is insane, and I love it. Boltgun's map design is really good. It's not incredibly linear, but it's also not a maze like the original Doom games. These maps are vertical and tend to loop in on themselves. They do a really good job of pushing you a specific direction. I do still wish this game had a map, because every once in a while I would just not notice a hallway or something and then wander around lost. If I had a map, I could just notice that I was being blind, but that was a pretty rare case. These maps overall are very good. One complaint I do have is that you are tasked a servo skull. This servo skull is supposed to help you along your way. Occasionally it will point out ammo or medkits, although this is never really useful as it always did this when I was full on health or ammo, but it also drops some lore on you or may point the correct direction to go. Not really by saying anything more than just hallway over here. It's not like there's a big arrow or something. So largely you can kind of just ignore it. However, I do want to know more about the game I'm playing, and he does have dialogue that I want to read. Unfortunately, that dialogue happens in the top left of your screen, which is very easy to miss, especially since he likes to talk during combat, and I can't read text in the top left when I'm trying not to die. I think just having subtitles where they should normally be, in the bottom middle of your screen, would have been a much better solution. But ultimately, this is very much so not a huge issue. Like I said, most of the things it says is not very important, and it only has a few lines of text. The closest analog I could say is Doom 2016. In fact, that's just a good analog for this entire game. It almost feels like if Doom 2016 ran in the GZ Doom engine, which is impressive because again, this is Unreal Engine 4, not GZ Doom. Movement speed feels pretty similar to Doom 2016, jumping and aerial control feels pretty similar to it as well, and you can mantle up in a similar way. It's obviously not identical, but I'm trying to narrow down a certain era of boomer shooter feel. I think you get it at this point. Warhammer 40K Boltgun is incredibly polished with a lot of love and care put into a game for a franchise they clearly like. It is easily one of the best shooters I've played so far this year. And like I said at the beginning of this video, you can pretty much tell what the whole game is from that first clip alone. If it interests you, you absolutely will love it. If it looks good to you, then you're gonna have fun. Big thanks to everyone that watched this video, and big thanks to all my YouTube members. If you become a YouTube member, you can see my videos early. Thanks to everyone that joined me over on Twitch. You can see my Twitch in the bottom right. If you go follow, I would love to hang out with you. And my Twitter is over there in the bottom left. I goof around and talk about games a lot, so if you want to follow my Twitter, go ahead. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.